Okay, for this one, I'm going to look at on your stock research sheet the PEG ratio and the debt to equity ratio. These are two pretty important numbers here. And you need to get the number for each of them and write them like right here next to it. So the PEG ratio and the debt to equity ratio. So I start on the front page of Dollar General like I've done on the previous videos. And I'm going to show you where to find these. So you go to key ratios again, and there is debt to equity at 1.88. So that is how much debt you have versus how much equity you have in the company. And you generally want as low a number as possible on that. They look for lower than 1.25. Theirs is 1.88, which is higher, which means they have more debt than average. And you'll see this little red right here. That means it's worse than average. So higher is worse, so this is worse, so that's why that's red. So 1.88 is their debt to equity ratio, 1.88. And is this debt to equity ratio less than 1.25? No, it is not. And in general, you do want it below like 1.25. It's not always a bad thing, though, a high debt to equity ratio. It could mean they went into debt to expand, like they're in the beginning of an expansion and they're about to have big growth. So you have to look more into it than just getting this number and making a decision based on that. You need to see why, if there's any sort of circumstances that would cause them to have a higher debt ratio at this particular moment. So the next thing I'm going to find is the PEG ratio. So I'm going to go to full key ratios data right here. And I'm going to pick valuation up here on the top tabs, and I'm going to click valuation, and I have the price to earnings growth ratio. And like I've said in the past, price to earnings is a very important ratio because it tells you the price of the stock versus how much money they actually earn. And if the price is really high compared to the earnings, you don't want that, right? And price to earnings growth might even be more important, because this is the price of the stock versus how much the earnings are growing. So this could tell you if it has a high price to earnings ratio, but it has a low PEG, which means it's growing quickly, that might be the reason the PE is high. So you want to dig deeper and look at the PEG ratio and see if it's low. But on this one, it is 2.4, which is considered a little bit high. It's not that bad. In general, you want to invest in things at less than 1.65, so no on that one as well. And that is how I find the PEG ratio and the debt to equity ratio for the stock research sheets.